Hello and welcome to the EMS Handoff Podcast. The first time back, Bradley Dean, since December of 2021. We decided to take a Christmas break, and we took a Christmas break, New Year's break, Easter break, 4th of July break, and we're back. So with Bradley Dean tonight and our missing co-host tonight, Aaron McCullough, this is David Blevins, and we are your source for all things EMS. So let's go ahead and kick this off. Bradley, are you well rested in this podcast world now? You like ready to jump back into this thing full force?
I have been ready. I think the biggest thing is life happens, and once we finally got through COVID, everybody starts doing stuff again and everything else. So everybody's been busy. And then we've kicked around the idea for a couple months, and then you were like, "We're just going to do it."
We're just going to do it. I said, "Too late, guys. We're going to do this." And I've got a guess. Let's go. Hey, you want to know? I figured out. Now, granted, this is kind of contradictory. I get a text message from my mother on Wednesday, and she has contracted COVID for the first time since the start. But you know how you can tell where everybody has kind of gone back to the pre-COVID times. This is a really telling thing, Bradley Dean. We went to Costco tonight, and guess what they were doing at the Costco?
Uh-oh.
They were giving out samples again.
Wow. So it's kind of funny. So it was a birthday weekend, so we were down at the coast, and one of the bed and breakfasts I usually stay at, the host actually had COVID, so we had to stay somewhere else.
Oh, well, so my mother, we could put this on Alabama. She actually worked at an event venue, a large venue here in town through the start of COVID. And then when they opened it back up, obviously limited, but they host hockey games there and everything. And she went through all of that without COVID. And now she's living in Alabama. And I think that's pretty much one of the reasons. Sorry if I offend any of our listeners from Alabama. But she's down there and she's retired. And so she only sees my uncle and my aunt, who's her sister, and a couple people here and there. And now she ends up with COVID. But yeah, the Costco, if you don't know, Costco is now returning to giving samples, so it is a good thing. So everything else going right in your world, Bradley Dean? I know you've been doing a lot of traveling lately.
Yes, everything seems to be going good. Should be back home hopefully in the next hour.
Hey, we the thing is, we take a almost 7 month break, and Bradley, you're still doing the same thing. You're hitting the roads. But let's go ahead and kick this off. First off, we'd like to thank our podcast partner, the Journal of Emergency Medical Services. And I will blame part of this renewal on them as well, in that in one of my most recent messages from our contact at Jim's, he's like, "Hey, check this out. And by the way, do you got any episodes coming up anytime soon?" So it's like, "Oh, we've let him down. So we're back." So make sure while Jim's is, while we're your source for all things EMS in the podcast verse, Jim's is your source for all things EMS everywhere else. So make sure and go by and visit them on their website, and you can see all of our prior episodes as well as all of our podcast hosts along with us, several good hosts out there. But tonight, we're going to kick this off. Good friend of mine, colleague, good. So Bradley, I'm just going to go ahead and kick this off. We have just, picked, continue to pick our guests that we have to put the disclaimer. We're not sure where we're going to go with this. Distinguished is out the door, but nonetheless, we have a textbook or a book author, not even a textbook author now. We're going to welcome the famous, infamous Todd Spence to our episode tonight. Mr. Spence is the director of 911 here in East Tennessee. He's been a paramedic for many years. He's an educator. He's an evaluator. I don't know that there's an area of this profession that Todd hasn't got in. And as soon as you mention that name, Todd, everybody in the area knows him. So Todd, well, why don't you just tell us a little bit about you, what you do, how you got here, those kind of things, bro.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the invite and appreciate the time to come out and talk to you guys. Um, Definitely, we've known each other quite a while. And usually on the other side of things, I'm coming up to your place to do some evaluations on some EMTs and paramedics and so on and so forth. But my career started out a little different. I joined a volunteer rescue squad in '96, and my sole intentions was to go on to the sheriff's department. And I was approached and they said, hey, by the way, we're going to pay for people to go to EMT school. Do you want to go to EMT school? And I said, yeah, that's fine. My instructor was Tony Watson. And the next thing you know, I loved it and didn't, pass it up. I didn't go back on the law enforcement side for a while. I said, all right, no problem. So I went, got my EMT, and then I went to work immediately for Sevier County and then Gatlinburg, and was there ever since.
Well, thank you. And thanks for sacrificing a little bit of your time to come on. And so going to have a little bit of conversation. We're going to start this a little bit differently. So, most of the time we get on here and we're talking about a specific thing, but speaking of EMS, you never know when something's going to happen. And my daughter is texting me and I hear the sirens right outside our house. So going down the road, right down from us, some of our brothers in the profession are actually going to work right now as we speak. So my wife's going out to check on that. So we're going to talk about, normally we talk about something that's going on in the profession from, changes in medications or changes in protocol, having some of the docs on here, but D. Todd has gone kind of a different route. And, he wrote a book and it's designed for kids, but very informative, very kind of short to the point. But it is, for those of you all watching on video, it is called What's a Tactical Medic? So D. Todd, just give us a little bit about what's a tactical medic. So not talking about what is a tactical medic, talk about your book. What is it? And how you got into, what's the idea behind it?
So last January, I usually I sit down and write a list of everything that I want to accomplish for the year. Almost like a bucket list. And one of those was to write a book. And what happened for that is that I have 2 7-year-olds here at home, and they would see me gear up in our complete suit up and everything like that with my plate carrier and everything like that. And they didn't really understand what I was doing. And it's very hard to explain at the time when they were 6 that, hey, I'm going to be a paramedic, but I'm going to be on the sheriff's department and we're going to be on the SORT team. And, they kind of looked at each other and they're like, well, what's the SORT team? And then, the easiest way to explain it to 6-year-olds is it's a specialized team with the sheriff's department, and we go out and we catch the really bad guys that do a lot of, pretty heinous stuff, bad stuff. And it takes kind of a special team with a lot of folks to go do that. And they're like, okay, we get that. And then they were like, okay, well, what does the tactical medic do? And I'm like, all right. So we went into a little bit more and said, I'm there to protect the team first and foremost. And then I'm there to take care of anyone else. And they got it. And then Devin come home one day, and he's my son. And he was like, hey, I told my buddies at the Boys and Girls Club that you're a tactical medic and they don't know what that is. I said, all right, no problem. So the wheels started turning there. And just like all great conversations, we was at a Murfreesboro TIMSA event, and I was sitting next to our friend, Mr. Perky, and we started talking. And he gave me a couple of his connections and a couple of people he deals with. Next thing you know, the thought that I had started, gathering some wheels on it and started making sense. And Next thing you know, I'm meeting with a publisher named Scylla Webb with Red Mask Publishing. And she's like, okay, here's what I think. Well, you need to go with this. And we drew it out. We done the illustrations and everything like that. And I was just going to do it for the kids. I'll be honest with you. I was going to say, you know what? I want to self-publish. I'm going to do a couple books just for family, friends, and just to say I did it. Well, next thing you know, after the finished product, I get approached and she's like, we need to put it on Amazon. And I'm like, okay, I don't know anything about this. So I started talking to Mr. Perky again. He's like, yeah, it's a really good idea. Let's do that. And put it on Amazon, and away it went. So it's very good on that aspect.
So you mentioned our good friend Jamie Perky there. He writes a book of a different kind about those that end up needing to call 911. But so, it's kind of interesting. And, I'm going to get into the why just a little bit more. But when you're talking about, you have a need, you're addressing a very specific age group in your kid's age, and you mentioned 7 years, and so they see that they're on the ambulance and they go do this, but I have no idea beyond that. So rather to the point. So I love it. You're like, top secret, I'll have to tell you later. But when you kind of get into this book, it's addressing what this profession does. And one of the things that we see on a regular basis is not a lot of people know what is going on in the EMS profession. What is, in fact, I had somebody at one point in time tell me that, they just sat at the pilot on Broadway in Knoxville for 12 hours and never did anything. I'm like, well, no, that's probably the person that's been there for about the last 12 hours. Has probably been about 10 different crews. In fact, the same crew's probably been there 3 separate times at that point in time. So, when you decided to write this and get it out there for the kids, what has kind of been the response from your kids and anybody else that's read it?
Luckily and thankfully, very positive. And I've had a couple reach out to me and ask for more later on, maybe some different series and stuff like that. But I'm still getting it out there. We sponsor classrooms and classes in our area. We've donated to all the schools, majority of the schools in my area already. I went up there to a couple schools and done presentations. And what I do is I go up there in my gear and just kind of show them what all we do as far as that goes and some of the equipment that we carry. Usually the age groups are, from kindergarten to, I have done a 7th grade class because they do not know what else we do either, in all honesty with you. So I didn't do it on the book aspect, but just from a tactical medic sort. And, it's been very, very positive. I'm very grateful for that. And we've had a good time with it.
So help some of our listeners out there that may be interested. You're taking this and again, addressing that very specific need, helping out the community know what that is. We have a lot of people out there throughout the country. Many of them are listeners that have a desire, have something in the back of your mind, but kind of like you said, if it wasn't for Jamie Perky, you probably would still have this kind of sitting in your back mind, your back pocket, you may or may not do it. So there's probably plenty of others that are in your same boat that, hey, I've got something to say and I'd like to get it out. So what would you say to those individuals that are looking for a way to share what they have or share this profession in a way that not only brings light to themselves, but to us overall?
I would definitely say talk to your peers. Peer support is an amazing thing. Getting that information out there, because I'll be honest with you, I had no idea where to start, nothing whatsoever. And just a couple of conversations in a hotel lobby at a conference event or whatever, sparked it to got the wheels going and going from there, and using folks in our profession as a resource. You would be amazed and astonished to how many resources that we can drum up very quickly. Say if I needed to drum up, maybe a military person or something like that, it's just a phone call away. And that's what it kicks off from there. And don't be bashful. Get it out there. If you're passionate about it and you want to try it, yes, you may get some critics, but luckily everything has worked out very well on my part. But yeah, get that information out there. And it's very therapeutic. I'll be honest with you. It's very enlightening to get everything you've had. Whenever you have a project and you get it out there and you see it form and it goes to light and it gets out there, and it's a wonderful feeling. It truly is.
Well, I'm actually glad that you brought that up, because that's a friend of mine, and I'm going to have to apologize. I think the name of the book is A Spirit Horse. Individual's name is Jefferson Kendrick. Is a friend of mine. I'll have to share this with you, but he come from the special operations background in the military. And then when he decided to retire, coming to the emergency services, he basically had, as you mentioned there, it's very therapeutic. He was having several things from the military that was compounded by some of the things he was seeing in the fire and EMS professions. And somebody said, "Hey, you're very good with words, just sit down." And part of his therapy was actually writing. And some of the ways to experience some of the things that we see is to write. And everybody talks about HIPAA and protection, but we can write about the profession. We can write about different things that occurred without violating any of that, and be very responsive to that mental health, or help with our resilience overall. So you mentioned you have some other things coming down the pike. Is there any pre-release information that we can steal from you, ideas that you already got being developed?
Not at this time. I'm still working on still working on this book, getting it out there, doing promo events. And now that as we had alluded to a little bit earlier, now that COVID has kind of laxed off, a lot of teachers have been reaching back out to me. So whenever I go to the classroom and stuff like that, or I just done a daycare just the other day, we go in there and I take some books, because kids don't get books anymore, and they have no idea. And they're like, "Man, this is awesome." So let them read it, take it home with them. And as they leave, we go ahead and we produce stickers. We show up in our uniform. Some of my cohorts on the team come with me if we're doing like a big school or like a education day or something like that. And we'll come up there, and we'll also bring color forms and stuff like that. So we'll bring, pictures of the team or pictures of the book, and let them use that as color forms and stuff like that. So we've had really good success with that. Now that's the kids side of thing. We also have a crap ton of adults out there that have no idea what tactical medics are. If you said rescue task force, or if you said TAC EMS, or, anything like that, they have no clue. And, my team is a very, very active team. We just went out like 4 days ago, and it's a different process for them, because here they are handcuffed, and next thing you know, they start saying, "Hey, I'm having chest pain," or whatever. And the team lead gets on the radio and says, "Doc, come here." And next thing you know, you have a paramedic sitting there taking care of them. And they have no idea that we're even part of the team.
Well, that's what I was going to mention is, why you're going out to these schools, going out to the daycares, and the kids are your primary source. There's parents, or there's adults, teachers in those classrooms. So what kind of feedback have you gotten from them as you go to these different events?
I'll be honest with you, they don't really know that we're out there much either. A lot of them are surprised to the fact, like if I had to go here lately, we've been doing a lot of safety teams in churches and religious institutions. And we'll go out there and tell them what we do. And, as we do either a first aid class, a stop the bleed class, or a CPR class, a lot of the questions I get at the end of it is like, okay, what does a tactical medic do on the team? And we get into a really good conversation on their parts and everything like that. And I tell them, I'm just like a deputy because I am a sworn peace officer. I have the standards that we have to meet as far as, physical and shooting and everything like that. We still have that. We are part of the team. It's not that in my side of things, it's not that I'm sitting in an ambulance staged, 2 miles down the road. I'm there on the stack. Usually I'm perimeter and take care of the back door with another person. And I'm right there beside them the entire time, armed as well. And, being there just in case if anything does happen.
That's really good. Let's change this. Let's change the script and actually get into what is a tactical medic, because our profession right now is really young with the turnover of personnel and such. We're bringing in a lot of new people, so there may be a lot that don't understand what tactical EMS is. And one of the things that we can do to continue to build on what this profession does is to get access to some of the special operations response teams that are out there from tactical medicine or rescue teams. Like you said, there's a couple you can get into Swiftwater, you can get into High Angle. There's a lot of stuff that, the other professions have that we're getting into as well. So you have a new greenhorn, for lack of a better term, a probie that's out there that's looking to come onto the teams. How do you prepare them for the opportunity to come over to the rescue side, so tactical medicine side?
First, I would sit them down and explain really and truthfully what all is out there for us to do and the options that you have. And then I find out, well, what do you like? What do you like to do? What is some of your passions? Are you a comms guy? Are you a gun guy? Are you, events? Do you like going to like music events and stuff like that? And then we can kind of step off from there. Well, hey, if you're a music guy, why not sign up to be working on the staff at Bonnaroo or something like that? If you're a water guy, why not join the team? Or if you're a hiker, the national park is begging for medics to go up there and help them whenever they're doing extractions and carryouts. And then if you are so inclined to do the law enforcement side of things, the first thing I'll tell them is you need to sit there and get you a buddy, get you a deputy that you've run some calls with, and sit there and ask him, hey, can I come do a ride along with you? And, yes, you got to sign a little paperwork, yada. And next thing you know, kind of go from there, get your foot in the door. And, we see each other the most as we're running calls on the ambulance and then police department and stuff like that. But that's easy to start with, getting your foot in the door. And then how bad do you want it? How bad do you want to pursue it? My team is relatively young for the most part. We started 10 years ago, and we started with our training. We never really had a SWAT team, SORT team, or anything like that. So we went down to Knox County, and they were doing the same thing. And we said, all right, let's do this. So they wanted a paramedic, but they didn't want to tie up an ambulance all the time for staging and stuff like that. So my team wanted a paramedic to be there on scene with them and to help out wherever I needed to. And I was brought in by a couple guys on the team that I knew, that I'd run calls with all the time and that I've known for quite a while. And then this new thing started coming around called TCCC, and everybody's like, well, wait a minute, what is going on there? And, it was kind of a crazy pill to swallow at first. And they're like, well, that's the military side of things. And they're like, well, let's go ahead and try it. Let's do that class also. So next thing I know, I'm at Walter State, talking to the guys up there, held one of the first classes in our area in East Tennessee. and started that process and went from there. But you don't have to be complacent at all. You can sit there and do so many more things in our profession. It's just finding the resources, finding something you like, the desire to do it, and making time to do it.
So I'll have to put this out there. It was actually kind of interesting when I first took my tactical EMS class a few minutes ago. We won't get into exactly how long ago. A few minutes ago, we were down in the Armory in Loudoun County doing the class, and evidently there was a failure of communications, which never happens, but we're training there was only a couple National Guard people. They knew we were there, but Tennessee Highway Patrol had a office that they could go in and do some of their work. And they forgot to tell them that we were going to be doing room clearing that day. And they forgot to tell us that Tennessee Highway Patrol might be in there and that a certain room was off. So we were actually practicing the stack, going through and clearing the rooms. And we got to about the third room in, and we come in, and we have weapons, and they're live weapons, but they've been safed, except for the two Tennessee Highway patrolmen sitting in that office that had no clue. And that was we probably come as close to a live encounter at that point in time as possible. And unfortunately, the city that I was working for, the police department wanted to keep their tactical medicine class in house, and they sent a couple of their officers to school. They wouldn't partner with us at the time. So, but you do make a very good point that, some of these things that are out there, you see everybody doing them, but you never really hear. And so if you're interested, definitely reach out. So, in your position, you mentioned a couple things there. One, you're actually a sworn officer.
Yep.
Which has the ability to carry and are carrying and are part of that, have the potential to be part of the initial entry, or as you mentioned, perimeter teams as well. So that takes on a little bit more. So not only are you meeting the EMS standards, you're having to meeting the peace officer standards at the same time, correct?
Correct. Absolutely.
So one of the things, depending on where you are, check out and see if your locality has a team. And one of the first ways to find out is talk to your leadership in whatever community you're in, and they can let you know and get you the contact. And, if you do, so I do know some of the post-certified places, you have to have a sponsor agency to go, but, reach out and find and go to those. And in addition, that gives you an extra source of income too, if you wanted to come off the ambulance, one shift and go to the law enforcement side the next. So let's talk about the training side then there. So how long have you been doing the tactical side there, Tom?
10 years.
10 years.
Yeah, over 10 years.
Okay. So what was your initial investment in the training to become part of the teams?
The initial first investment was going to be the TCCC course that we did. And, it was definitely, it was a great course, but it was hard for me to try to wrap my head around, okay, the military, let's separate the military, let's go to civilian. And, I'm in the same boat with you. That class was probably 9-10 years ago, every bit. I mean, it was very, very soon after I joined my team, and we started separating the two. And then, from there, I actually started talking to some of the special operations guys that I knew, and some of the military, medics that I come in contact with, and just kind of talking what's the best part and what all they see and everything like that. Because you got to think, at this time, whenever we're still doing this, tourniquets were not allowed on the ambulance at all. You remember as well as I do, if you used a tourniquet on somebody, you better make sure that you had that doctor's name, his number. You better be a close personal friend of his, because if you pulled out a tourniquet and used it 10 years ago, you were going straight to EMS hell. You knew that as well as I did. You might
and that limb was coming off.
Yes, and you might as well just go ahead and burn that card right there. And it would amaze me and all that. And we
had a better chance of actually doing a field amputation and getting by with it than putting on a tourniquet.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I had that scenario where there was a a lady underneath her foot was underneath the dash, and we could not get the pedal off for anything. And I mean, it's through and through her calf. And a doctor pulled up on scene that we know, an ER doctor, and he's like, "Where's your trauma shears?" "Right here, cut it." Okay. What do? You follow his direction. Oh, by the way, you're riding in the back with me. Let's go.
Yeah, you're handcuffed to the stretcher. If they have any questions, you're the one to do that. So to remain current, you said you were an active team, but to remain current and up to date with everything that you need, what is kind of your monthly involvement now?
My monthly involvement with my team is that we train 2 Tuesdays a month. It's usually the first and third Tuesday of every month, and it's an all-day event. And we do everything from room clearing to special events to gun qualifications to what all do I need, and talking about some of the medic side of things that we'll do, and then less lethal and everything like that. And we'll do that, as well as we are subject to call at any given time. We do not split off into teams. We don't say that, "Hey, David, this is your week, you're on call. Todd, this is your week, you're on call." We don't do that. We normally get a notification the evening before and says, "Okay, it's 5:00 now. We need to meet at 5:30 in the morning to go for briefing and stuff like that." So it can, like I said, and it varies. We can go from a couple a week to maybe one a month. It varies. It really does. And my area is a little different because, we all have drug problems in our areas. We know that. And our 4th Judicial Drug Task Force does an outstanding job. But they're dealing with the 5 million visitors that come into this area. If you were to sit there and you told me that, "Hey, we're going to have a bunch of Detroit boys coming down here and taking a Greyhound bus and bringing in all this heroin and stuff like there," you wouldn't believe me. You would thought I was crazy for even thinking that. And that's what we were dealing with all the time.
All right. So, biggest thing. So one, if you're in this profession, you have any question or have any kids that have any questions, make sure to go to Amazon, find What's a Tactical Medic by D. Todd Spence. It is one of those things that even if it's just the profession itself, it is good to interact with the kids and allow them the opportunity to really kind of just see the profession from a different perspective. We talk about kids, getting them a book like this will help them understand. But if you're just looking at a way to take your knowledge and put it down, it's a good book to take a look at and kind of see. Everybody kind of thinks of I'm looking at my shelf over here, David Baldacci and Michael Hayden, all these different books that are, thousands of pages in length, or they've got 8 to 10 different series and a lot of production. You have the ability to write a book. This right here is straightforward, to the point, able to understand, and actually one kind of fun. And really, if you take a look at it, the artwork is really great too, because it really looks a lot like D. Todd right there. I have to say, if nothing else, the bald head works really well.
Yeah.
So, hey, D. Todd, if people wanted to get in touch with you and find out about the process, how would they get a hold of you?
Absolutely. Just looking out for the Medic Todd on social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter and stuff like that. And we have a website, themedictodd.com, and, they can always reach out to me on any of those facets. Be happy to talk to them and tell them, anything that I may know about that, and give them advances and resources and saying, "Hey, here's a contact, try this." And I do like the fact that in our profession now, we are seeing more and more classes pop up. Now we have of course, stop the bleeds and stuff like that. So that's to me, that's sparking a lot of interest now. And now with that sparking the interest, then you've got on the EMS side of thing, now you got TECC, and that's sparking a lot of interest. Now you on the fire side of things, you got Rescue Task Force. So all this is kind of coming around, and some of us old heads, it's kind of been in it from the insertion of it. They're like, okay, how did you do this and how did you do that? And I can't remember if you were in that class or not, but it all started with, I took advantage of every class that we had come around here. I know the one that come out of not South Carolina, I'm sorry, in California, they come up to Knoxville and done class for us as well. The something institute, I cannot think of it off the top of my head, but we took any and all classes we could.
Yeah. And
those were hard to come by at the time, but now, I just done a TCCC class this weekend. So it's out there. It's easy to find now. It's more accessible than it ever was before. Thank goodness. And
with some of the, the thing is with some of the simulators and stuff like that we have available, able to put them in a real life stress environment, that's, get into stress inoculation theory, and that's a whole different podcast altogether. But, I know in mine, just the amount of M80s that they set off in trash cans, we were low crawling and everything. It makes a tremendous amount of difference. And I know that because as I'm, I was sent in one scenario to a downed officer, and one of the things you do when you dealing with a downed officer is to disarm them, because if they're unconscious and they wake back up and they have somebody crawling all over them, they may think it's a combatant and start fighting. And I pulled forward weapons off of somebody and didn't finish through the scenario. And next thing you know, I've got a Glock pressed to the side of my head, and because I missed the one in the small of his back. But so the simulations that we can place people in these days in the education realm, not just most people talk about sim man and all this different. We're talking about the environments, the lights, the sounds and all that too. Because that's the hardest part. We can teach the medicine.
Yep.
My daughter was reading our textbooks when I was teaching, when she was 7-8 years old, and she knew how to do half of the skills already. And, but place her in one of these stressful environments where there may be bullets flying or a lot of sounds going off. Medicine's a lot different. So,
yep.
All right, D. Todd, we as we wrap up, we like to always give anybody an opportunity to say their last thoughts, though obviously just last thoughts for the night and not last thoughts all together. But, so go ahead, any topic you want, floor is yours for a minute.
I appreciate that. You were talking about a scenario. I will say that communication is key. Communication in every single aspect is key, from knowing what all is going on, what's out there, getting your foot in the door, getting the resources, building bridges, making that connection with folks. Okay. It can be as simple as, next week we're all down at Timsa and you come and talk to us and say, hey, Todd, by the way, here's your book. Let's talk about it. To, everyday situations. If you have an interest, go tell your director, hey, I would really like to be part of this team, or what do you think about this, as far as an idea that you may have? And, communication is absolutely key. And one of the case in points is a couple of weeks ago, I'm sitting in my office doing that dictator, director, budget stuff. It's awful sometimes. And next thing you know, call comes out and it's an active shooter in an elementary school. And we've had those. So that's definitely one of those tightening experiences, especially when the school that they call out is a school that your child is in. That happened to me. So next thing you know, I'm rushing out to the door. My phone is blowing up. And I'm grabbing my gear. I've got my gear on, lights and sirens. Here we go. There's a convoy of us. We're talking on the radio and everything like that to get up there. And then all of a sudden, about 3 minutes into it, they say, whoa, 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 time out, time out, time out. It's okay. It was just a drill. The SRO did not tell the teachers. He only told a certain section. They forgot to pass along the information. We had teachers that were taking students, hiding them in closets, and they called 911. So you can definitely see where the communication plays an integral part in every single thing that we do. But the other thing I'll tell everybody is, man, you don't know till you try. Absolutely. You know, if you've got an idea, get it out there. You know, yes, you may get some positive feedback. Yes, you may get some negative feedback, but humility is a nice asset to have, you know, and value people's opinion. If you tell somebody something, you know, get ready for that opinion, whatever it may be, but don't get discouraged with it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Bradley. You've been awfully quiet tonight, so we're going to give you your shot here to give us your final thoughts.
So I think we do a good job of doing PR and showing kids and stuff what we do. We alluded to it, but I think one of the big things we need to do probably is let the community know all the various aspects of the job and what we do and everything else. So I think the discussion night was really good and gives everybody an opportunity to kind of see the options that are out there.
I'm going to echo exactly what really a combination of both Todd and Bradley mentioned there. It's like, if you have an opportunity to, or if you have a thought, you know, take the opportunity to reach out. You know, one of the biggest things that we look at some of our brethren in the service, from law enforcement to fire to even military, you know, you don't turn the corner without seeing something that they have put on, you know, from public education programs, who we are. They're out there talking. I mean, in the wildfire side, and Todd knows a lot about wildfires as well, but, you know, Smokey the Bear always talking about, you know, only you can prevent a forest fire. And, you know, but so from National Fire Service, you know, so this is the time, you know, we are the young brother in this profession. It's time for us to say, hey, we are critical as well. And part of that is just getting people to understand what it is we do. So if you have a thought that you may think could turn into a book, write it, and, you know, reach out to the resources that are out there. If you do, hey, this isn't a book, let one of the magazines know, you know, from Jim's and some of the others that are out there. You can write articles for them and submit them for publication, from just op-ed pieces, things that, you know, are your opinion, to peer-reviewed journal articles as well. So, you know, and if you never know, you can turn out to, you know, write the next Chicago Fire, Chicago Med, and get, you know, the EMS side into the side. Just take a stint out of your comfort zone, and, you know, try it and find those resources. You know, we're big about helping each other, or we're big about helping our patients, but we're also big about helping each other. So find these resources. But we'll definitely include the link to Amazon to What's a Tactical Medic, written by Todd Spence, so that you're able to go to their resource and pick that up. So if you're listening here, make sure and go by. It's not going to break your wallet, your pocketbook. It is a fairly priced book, but it's got a lot of, it's quick and impactful. So Todd, hopefully you're coming in about a month to our testing there, but if not, you know, it's always good to have you talk to you tonight. So
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for guys having me. And also on Amazon, it is on Kindle as well. And if we're always looking for sponsors, to sponsor classes. So if anyone's listening and their significant other, or they have a contact that teaches, you know, grammar school kids and stuff like that, we would love to send them some books and some color forms, and get the information out there.
All right. And we'll also include his contact information in the show notes as well, so that you can reach out. For all of our listeners, we love to record these episodes. And without each one of you, we do not know what you're thinking. So make sure to subscribe, rate, and review on your favorite podcast platform. But you can reach out to us. We'll have all of our contact information in the show notes. But make sure that you go by our website, emshandoff.com. And you can reach out to us through there as well. Don't forget to go by. I've got the original EMS Handoff hoodie on tonight, but don't forget all of our different EMS Handoff podcast wear. You can find it at thepursueco.com. And you click on shop and scroll down, and you'll find all of our gear from our original logo to our EMS podcast for the Keep Back line, which has been one of the most popular ones. You can find that there. But don't forget to reach out to one of us. And also make sure to show your love to Jim's, our podcast partner, as we are back now here from Eric, who is not able to be here with us tonight, Bradley Dean, and myself. Take care, stay safe, and always remember the value of your EMS Handoff.